Go live. Hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. Happy Wednesday. Give people a few minutes to flow into the chat here. Hope you guys are having a great Wednesday. I'm tired. I am a sleepy boy. Been taking lots of naps lately, man. Tell you what, you start running a lot of miles, you're going to start sleeping a lot more. That's kind of where I'm at. It's like by 10:30, I'm just like, just takes it out of you. I used to be like a six hour per night kind of guy. Now I'm like, if I don't get my 7.5, 8 hours, I'm a zombie. That's how it goes. Welcome, Let's Toast Media. Salute Maize and Brew, go blue. I like the rhyming intro coming in here. We'll get going in a few minutes. Always like to join a couple minutes early, make sure everything's going well. Is the music a little loud today? Feels a little loud today. Let me drop it off a little bit there. Should be a little bit better. I don't know if we're going to go small Steven or big Steven today. Not going to be showing a whole lot of film. This is more of a discussion, less of a visual. You know, I'll be using a lot of the notepad, so hopefully that's big enough. But we're going to talk all things Jim Harbaugh, right? I think I was with, I don't know if this was brought up this past weekend with my cousin. I was talking Michigan football a little bit, but it just got me thinking. I was like, how does Jim Harbaugh see until 2022? Right? He's got a really low buyout now, made a lot of new hires, looking to make a splash. But what's he got to do to survive this season? Logan Evans, welcome, a member of the channel. Logan Evans, welcome. Let's get wild and do big. Do big what? Sorry I didn't shave. I meant to shave this morning, but my razor was out of battery. So you just get a mustache Steven. That's what you get. Okay. We are about 30 seconds early here. Okay, what we're going to be doing today, I'm going to be going through, I have 5 different scenarios that I think kind of thread the line between does Harbaugh see the 2022 season or is he fired? Okay, 5 scenarios I think there are where the first scenario and the last scenario are ones where he's for sure fired or he's for sure retained. And then the 3 scenarios in the middle are ones where I'm like on the fence. All right. So we'll see. We'll see. And we're going to be doing a lot of notepad today to keep track of that. We're going to do Big Steven today. Okay. It's time. It's time. 8:30 on the dot. Okay. So before we get started, thank you to the members. We got Logan Evans, member of the channel here. Got the list up here. Noah Schroeder, Dylan Gurk, Alex Fuller, Aaron Bryant, Andrew Decker, Sam Lee, Terry Pender, Keno Bear, and Logan Evans. If you want to become a member, head to the Maize and Brew channel, press the join button. It'll give you different options, superfan, early access, or exclusive live streams. Speaking of exclusive live stream, at 9:15 p.m. tonight after this live stream, I'm going to be doing a live Q&A for about 30 minutes for members of the exclusive live stream chat. So if you want to join that, that's what we're doing. But that's going to be different topics. Right now, we're going to be talking about Jim Harbaugh and this schedule. Let me go little Steven for a second here. This is the schedule, right? This is 2021. How many games here does Jim Harbaugh have to win for him to survive this season? All right, I think his seat is fairly hot. I don't think I'm breaking any ground by saying that. But Caleb Spencer coming in, 9 wins and a bowl win. Otherwise, I think he should be out. I just don't think that's going to be the case. Lyle Knight, 8 wins minimum, must-win bowl game. So let me do a precursor here. This is like almost everything I try to say, everything I try to put in my videos is from not necessarily my point of view, but from the administration's point of view. Okay? Not like he deserves to go if he doesn't win more than 8 games. I think maybe that's reasonable, but I'm trying to think from like the administration. Okay? So any viewpoint I give here is me speaking from like the University of Michigan standpoint and not what I would want to happen. Okay? That's kind of where I'm coming from on anything I say here. So keep that in mind. This isn't like, wow, Steven is giving him a really long leash. It's like, I'm trying to speak from Michigan's point of view based on Michigan's actions, based on Michigan's kind of behavior with Jim Harbaugh at this point. Okay. All right. So let's get to it. Will Jim Harbaugh be Michigan's coach in 2022? Okay. We're going to do 5 different scenarios. Okay. And I got the schedule to my left. It's going to be hard to see. Actually, let's go small. We're going to do it. We're doing small Steven today. All right, we're going to do it. 5 different scenarios. Okay. So, first scenario, 6-6 or worse. Okay? I'm actually going to let's try to make it look a little nice today, okay? Look at that. Boom. You ready for this? Boom. Okay. 6 or worse. I think the Harbaugh verdict is gone. Okay? I don't think there's any wiggle room there. Okay? And for losses, these are just going to be a guess. Okay? These, I'm not going to say like these are for sure, but the most likely ones in this case, right? Maybe there could be a different one here or there, but I think this is probably a decent list, right? Washington, Wisconsin, MSU, Indiana, Penn State, Ohio State, okay? I don't think the losses really matter in this case, but you're essentially losing every single game that you're expected to lose, right? So I'll say like expected losses would be like OSU, Washington maybe, I don't know. And then one of like Penn State or Wisconsin, right? Maybe one of those is an expected. So you're like 0-3 in that scenario. And then you lose every toss-up, right? Which would be like, again, one of Penn State, Wisconsin this year will probably be a toss-up. Indiana, probably a toss-up. And then you lose an expected win, which would be MSU, right? This is kind of how I would categorize those 6 losses. Not great. And the scary thing is, this doesn't seem that crazy, okay? It's like Washington, Ohio State, like Penn State and Wisconsin are like on the same level as Michigan. Debatably Indiana's a riser. I mean, I thought last year Michigan was going to beat Michigan State by 30, right? And that didn't happen. So this is kind of terrifying, right? Like this is scary because you could very easily see this. And this is Michigan went into triple overtime against Rutgers last year, right? I think you can categorize Western Michigan, Northern Illinois as pretty safe, but can you count out or can you guarantee wins against Rutgers and Maryland in this scenario? I don't know. So, why treat MSU as an expected win? I'm treating MSU as an expected win because it absolutely should be. I mean, Michigan was a 21.5 point favorite, or even more than that last year. Okay, when I'm saying like expected wins or toss up or expected losses, these are based on like the betting lines. Okay, like what is Vegas going to put the lines on these games? Right, on these games, I think Indiana and one of Penn State or Wisconsin will be close to toss-ups. And And then I think OSU, Washington, and the other one of Wisconsin, Penn State will be expected losses. Big loss probably expected against Ohio State. I think Washington and one of Penn State or Wisconsin would be like slighter, like less than a touchdown. But MSU, Michigan should still be like a 10-point favorite this year. I think they should be. So anyway, this is my 6 or 6 or worse. I don't think there's any disagreement here, right? 6 and 6. Does anyone think that this is not a fair assessment or a fair assumption that 6 and 6 are worse and he's gone? Okay. I think that's kind of a like no duh scenario. Okay. So speak up now or forever hold your peace if you want to try to argue that there is a scenario in which he's retained after 6 and 6. I think you're crazy if you do think that. Okay. Okay. Next scenario here. Scenario number 2, 7 and 5. And I'm going to put losses to both rivals. Okay. In this scenario, I'm probably going to say strong, lean, gong. Okay. Hold on real quick. Saad Malik, unless OSU is one of those 6, then yes. Dude, if OSU is one of the 6, I would still argue Harbaugh is gone. Okay? I understand that if you're 6 and 6, it's almost a guarantee one of those losses is to OSU. I don't think it matters. If you're 6 and 6, losing to both, or like even if you beat both MSU and OSU, 6 and 6 is really bad. Okay? That's not good. And let's just take that scenario one step further. If you beat, say, Michigan State and OSU, that means you probably lose to both Maryland and Rutgers instead. Okay? I just, yeah. So 7 and 5, losses to both rivals. I still think he's probably gone. Okay? I'm getting what... who said it in the chat? Someone said a loss to MSU. Yeah, suddenly a loss to MSU is an immediate discussion ender, in my opinion. I think that's close to true. Losing to MSU last year was horrendous. It really was. It was insanely bad. And this year, I feel like there is not an excuse anymore. It can't happen. It can't happen. Okay, so 7 and 5. I'm gonna put losses, and again, these aren't like set in stone, but I'm gonna just predict if this is the case where we have losses to both rivals, and you're 7 and 5. I'm gonna say Washington, Wisconsin, MSU, say Penn State because it's a whiteout, right, and OSU. All right, so you get the win over Indiana. Okay, not much better because you're still losing like your expected losses, right? You're still losing your 0-3. I should do this. 0-3 in expected losses, right? You're 1-1 in toss-up, and that's going to be IU, and then one of Penn State or Wisconsin. And then you lose to MSU again, right? And that's just not acceptable. So I think anything less than 8 wins and a loss to MSU is almost a guarantee that you're gone. I think that's it. Give me a second. If he loses to MSU with losses to Washington and Wisconsin, he's gone on the spot. What if he loses to MSU with losses to Washington and Wisconsin? Those are his only other losses, right? 9 and 3, a win over Ohio State, and you think he's going to get fired? I understand that, but those are scenarios I'm trying to like go through in my head where it's like, first of all, how likely is it that a 9 and 3 Michigan team beats OSU but loses to Michigan State? I just don't see that. Like, that's just a weird ass scenario. Caleb Spencer. I think anything less than 8-4 is fireable. It means they probably lose bad to the teams we should be competing with. Context is going to become important, okay? In both scenario 1 and 2 here, I think these are like, you're going to be gone, okay? So context doesn't matter as much, whether you're losing big or losing close. If you're 6-6 or 7-5, especially with losses to both rivals, I think you're done. Hold on. A loss to MSU is breaking point. I agree with that, Dylan Girk. That's a big one. Cameron Barnes. The defense is going to keep Michigan in games like Don Brown's first 2 years. That's a crazy thing to say, okay? I'm not trying to be mean, but this is a brand new defense, okay? If the offense, I've said before, if the offense doesn't carry the team this year, it's going to be a 6-6 team or worse. Okay, I'm gonna say that. I think the offense needs to carry this team at least early on. Defense may be able to put together a decent second half of the season. It's a brand new defense. That takes time. Okay, Cameron. Now I do know you're crazy. If Michigan goes 1-11 with one OSU and he keeps his job, get out of here. Get out of here. By the hypothetical MSU loss, I don't know if there's any willingness to see how the rest of the season goes. I'd keep... Okay, Logan Evans coming in here. I'd keep if he was 7-5 with OSU and wins the bowl game. I agree. I don't think there's any chance he gets fired in season. Let me rephrase. The only way he gets fired mid-season if it's like a 0-6 start or something, right? Like you're losing to Western, losing to Northern Illinois, losing to Rutgers. That's the only way. That's the only way. And that, let's be honest, as bad as things could be, I'm knocking on wood because you never know, but that would be the only scenario. Okay, so 6-6 worse. Think we're in agreement. Harbaugh verdict is gone. 7-5, strong lean gone. Really, really likely to be gone. So let's move on here to scenario 3. And the reason the loss to MSU, and I'm reading a lot about this, the reason the loss to MSU is such a big deal, because that'd be 2 years in a row. And I don't think you can survive that from like a recruiting standpoint. Last year was the year to put Michigan State away, like for good. They would have been what, 1-7 or something ridiculous, 1-8 if they didn't beat Michigan with a loss to your in-state rival. How do you do anything if you're trying to build a program in the state of Michigan and you just go 1-8 in a COVID year where you weren't able to develop any relationships, you lose to your rival? It was the time to like put the nail in the coffin on Michigan State, and Michigan didn't. So losing 2 years in a row would be unfathomable. Okay, so let's get into this tricky scenario. Okay, scenario 3: you beat MSU, but you're 7-5. Okay, this is where I think it starts to get interesting. Okay, I think this is where we're going to see some differing opinions. Okay, I'm going to put the Harbaugh verdict for now on the line. Super hot seat. Super hot seat. And let's just assign some losses here. Okay, let's say Washington again. Let's say Wisconsin. Let's say Indiana, Penn State, OSU. Okay, I think that's fair. So what are like some notes here? Still losing all expected losses, right? Lose essentially all your toss-ups. Beat the rival you absolutely have to, right? This is where I think context is everything. Okay, I truly do think 7-5. Context is everything. Now, a part of me says 7-5. That's not good enough. You're gone. Okay, and I get that. You got Saad Malik saying gone. Caleb Spencer thinks he's gone in this scenario. I think context is everything. What do those games look like? Okay. I mean, if you take into account what 2020 looked like, a lot of those games, Michigan just wasn't even competitive at the start of those games, right? Against like Indiana, Wisconsin. It was like after the first like 10 minutes, you're like, Michigan's just going to lose this game, right? So if that continues, and that's this flavor of 7-5, I don't think there's any question, right? Then he's gone because he's not competitive. He's not competitive against teams like Indiana, Penn State, Wisconsin that he needs to be competitive with, okay? 1 year in 2020, you can give him a break and say like, okay, but now if you're doing that again in 2021, I think you're gone, okay? But say it's like, you lose an overtime game against Washington early, okay? You have like a 2017 sort of game against Ohio State where you're, down by 4 with 4 minutes left in the game, right? And then a couple like really close games against a couple teams. I agree. I think I'm going to shift this to lean gone, because even if you're losing those close, it just feels like it's been that way, right? Where it's just like, well, you've been close. Maybe next, I get it. I don't know. This one I'm really like on the fence about. And honestly, I think this is the most likely scenario for this season. I truly do. I think it's a tough schedule. I think you got a lot of teams in the East that could put things together. Indiana, obviously. Penn State had a rough start of the year, but then rattled off 4 straight wins to end 2020. Who knows what the hell they're going to do. But you always got Wisconsin around. It's going to be weird. So that's what... And excuse me, Saad Malik's comment here is what I want to highlight here. I'm actually going to move this. Is this more readable? It's kind of a nightmare. Here, let me do this. Boom, boom. That's a little more readable. Saad Malik with a good comment. He says, if there is constant improvement throughout the season, ends up close versus Ohio State, then I could see the administration letting him go for 1 more year. Last year was horrendous, okay? But if you're 7-5 and say you go to overtime against Ohio State with all of these other losses within 10 points, right? A couple of them like a last-minute field goal, whatever. And for your 7 wins, you demolish Michigan State. You handle all other teams really well. And these are just really, really close losses against teams that end up being ranked in the top 20. Okay? That's a scenario where if he's showing improvement, if we're competitive against Ohio State, then it gets to the point where it's like, shit, man, if we fire him, then we're back at square one. We went from 2-4. That sucked. Understand he's on a short leash, but he's shown improvement. We went to overtime against Ohio State, in this scenario. Do we just go for 1 more year? The buyout's so cheap, it might be worth just seeing if this is the trajectory up. He figured out the staffing issues from last year, And I'm thinking from the administration standpoint, because I know a lot of people like Matt Campbell. I know a lot of people, think there's going to be a coach out there that can do it. Honestly, I'm changing it back to on the fence. I'm going back to on the fence context. And you know what? I'm going to put one more thing. Bowl game is huge, okay? Ending the season with OSU and a bowl game loss again, that sucks. That really, really sucks. So I don't know. Why should he be gone? He already failed to get the job done. If you bring him back for 2021 after that debacle, you bring him back for 2022. It really depends how you want to lose, not just the record. Exactly. And when you're 7-5, you beat MSU, the rival that you literally cannot lose to this year, then it's all about context. Brian Schultz, how would it look if fires Harbaugh after complete staff turnover, including bringing in Mike Hart? I think he gets another year unless he loses to MSU. I think that's a great point as well. And you look at what is the profile of a lot of these coaches? They're really young. They're really trying to hit the recruiting trail hard. Some of the roster gaps are starting to get filled at defensive line and cornerback. It was a recruiting first focused hire surge, I think, with a lot of youth prioritized. And I think trying to modernize the defense with a Baltimore Ravens-esque defense to try to solve the Ohio State question. I think a lot of these things aren't one-year solutions. You know what I mean? It's not like he brought in a bunch of veterans to immediately make this like the year to win, right? I don't think the roster is in a place to win a championship this year, but there needs to be marked improvement. And I think Brian Schultz is a good point in that, where it's like you made a lot of these hires to answer those questions. Those questions don't get answered right away. Not all the time. I think recruiting on the defensive side was one of the biggest issues. I mentioned defensive tackle and cornerback. Those don't get solved in 1 year. You can patch holes with a transfer portal like Michigan State has done with their roster for this upcoming season, but that's not the longevity of that is not there. That's not a way to build a program. So yeah, context, this is scenario number 3 is the most interesting to me. I also think the feeling of the fan base will matter in the scenario. If it's hard for them to sell tickets, they might be forced to fire him considering the debt from last year. That's a good point too. Again, it's a lot of momentum, and that's why I do think the bowl game is pretty big. You know, how hard is it going to be to sell tickets when you lose to Ohio State? You lose your bowl game. 8-5 looks a lot different than 7-6, especially if you lose to Ohio State again. Right? Those are two very, very different tastes in the fans' mouths. We're used to lost to Ohio State, lost in a bowl game. Here we go again, right? I think this year people will be excited to be back in games. So that I know the ticket sales, they've been like pumping out the promotions quite a bit this year to try to get that up. So they are struggling. 7-5, where you beat MSU, context going to be big, and it's going to be about momentum. How do you end the year, right? And how's the team look? How's the team look, and what's the culture looking like? So, yeah, I'm really on the fence here. Okay, let's move on to scenario number 4. Okay, and actually, I need to add another scenario after this one. We're actually going to do 6 scenarios. All right, 8-4 losses to both rivals. This is another tricky one. Okay. Gosh, man, this one's tough too. Because again, we've been talking about Michigan State. I went into detail about like how important it is to win that game this year. Oh, this one sucks. Lost MSU, automatic firing, getting 50-60 dropped on them again versus OSU, losing bowl game, automatic firing. If they win a bowl, it could be different. Yeah, I agree with that. Another thing, Brian Schultz said he noticed that Harbaugh has a very different demeanor, very loose this year. He expects to have another year. I remember there was like an article where he released like his goals for this year. And one of them was like not to worry about his contract, like not to worry about getting fired. Right. Okay. I'm going to start this one on the fence again as well. Okay. Because 8-4 from 2-4, I mean, that's improvement. And this is this is one I hate, okay? Because this one with losses, you're going to do like Washington, Wisconsin, MSU, OSU. Okay, so you're going to have some key wins here, right? You're going to have like Penn State in a whiteout or something. You're going to have Indiana. So this is like a really bad mix, right? Where you're 0-3 on expected losses, right? That's your OSU, Wisconsin, Washington. You're 2-0 on toss-ups, and that's against like Penn State, IU, and then you're 0-1 on big rivalry game you need, right? And that's MSU, right? So this one really sucks. And then you win all other games, right? So you win all the other games you're expected to, just not the biggest like expected win that you need to. So this one, like I can't tell which one is worse, like just from like a feeling standpoint, right? I feel like you give me one, like either scenario 3 or 4, and like I'm not going to be a happy guy, right? It's like it's really not going to be fun if either one of these happens. It's not a good time. Oh, I hate this one. I wrote this down earlier today, and I was like, ooh, this one hurts the soul. Oh, we got the Broomster, Anthony Broom of Mason Brew. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, I want to know your guys' thoughts on 8-4 losses to both rivals, because this hurts the soul. And usually when something hurts the soul, that's what's going to happen. That's where we're at, right? Oh, so what do you do here, man? Because take this scenario, right, where you're either going to win against Wisconsin, Penn State. I kind of have those two teams as interchangeable this year. I don't know what to expect. It's going to be a crazy year this year. But you get wins over like a rising Indiana team, over a Penn State team. I mean, these are 4 losses, 3 of which you're like, yeah, that makes sense, and then 1 that just kills you. Honestly, the more I think about this, it's weird, because the more I think about this MSU game, the more I just feel like you can't lose that game. Like, you can't lose that game. And I just think, especially with the hires that Michigan State went with, they got Wilcher, right? Michigan has a bunch of in-state guys. You lose to Michigan State twice in a row, and you lose to Ohio State. This might be another one where context is really important, right? I mean, you absolutely cannot get like walloped by Michigan State. You probably can't get walloped by Ohio State in this scenario either. I don't know. I might be lean gone, honestly, just because of how important that MSU game is. I don't know, man. Probably depends if we get blown out or not. Yeah, that's a good point. Again, I'm gonna also just put context is huge. Context plus bowl, right? That's it. Anthony Broom, lose to both rivals, find the nearest rocket to strap this staff to. Yeah, I will. I don't want to make any promises to what I would do on this stream, but I would just probably scream on a live stream for about 45 minutes straight. 8-4 is a disappointment, and a loss to MSU is unacceptable. 8-4, to me, is an acceptable outcome for 2021. I'm not saying losses to both rivals with 8-4 is acceptable. 8-4 with a win over MSU, I think that's absolutely, he's going to stay. Right? But 8-4, you're losing to both rivals. I don't think you survive that. I don't see it. I think you have a better chance with good context, right? You're winning a bowl game. You beat MSU. If you're 7-5, showing improvement, some close losses, I think you have a better shot of Jim Harbaugh being retained than if he goes 8-4 and loses to both rivals, regardless of context. Honestly. He can beat MSU and still get fired, but he can't lose to MSU and keep his job. This is just scrambling my brain. What? He can beat MSU and still get fired, but he can't lose to MSU and keep his job. What the hell? My brain is combusting trying to process that. TB12 Go, would you be happy with 3-9 with wins over OSU, MSU, and Penn State? Hell no. Hell no. Are you kidding me? Anyone who says, I'd be happy with 1-11 if the one is Ohio State, you're a lunatic. You're a crazy person. That is so ass backwards to me. Honestly, that's how I feel about it. It just seems crazy to have that mindset. 3-9 with wins over Ohio State, Michigan State, and Penn State. You would lose to Western Michigan and Northern Illinois. You'd lose to Rutgers at homecoming. You'd lose to Nebraska and Scott Frost. Think of that post game. Think of Scott Frost in that post game. I don't want that. You'd lose to Northwestern, Maryland. No, I'm not choosing that. I'm not choosing that. So yeah, honestly, 8-4 losses both rivals. I'm leaning gone. 7-5 beat MSU. Context is everything in that scenario. Steve Sherrick still thinks 8-4 with win over MSU is still context. Say MSU is like 2-9 and he futz around and barely beat them, then get blown out by Penn State, OSU, Wisconsin, Wichita, Washington. That's true. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah, I don't know. Okay. All right. So let's go. Let's move on to the next scenario here. These two are tough. 3 and 4 are really, really tough. I have a really hard time with those. Okay. So 5, 8 and 4, beat MSU. I think right away I'm going to put Harbaugh verdict, lean stay. I think that's going to be fair, right? Your losses are probably Washington, Wisconsin, OSU, or let's put Penn State, OSU, right? So your key wins are going to be Indiana, MSU, right? You're still 0-3 on expected losses. What are you? You're 1-1 on toss-ups, and you beat MSU, right? That's a big one. Beating MSU, that's a big one. I think you're a lean stay here because you beat MSU, the team that you needed to. I think this is enough. Again, I think something would really have to go wrong in this scenario. Okay? And what I mean is the team would have to be like falling apart, right? This is again. I think I'm going to put unless context is extremely bad, he stays. And when I say extremely bad, I mean like all of these losses, or like maybe like 2 or 3 of these losses are like blowouts, right? I think was it Steve who said, Steve Sherrick who said like, say MSU is like 2-9, right? They suck and you squeak by in double overtime or something. Unless the context is really, really bad, right? You lose by 4 touchdowns to OSU and Wisconsin. Maybe one of these is close, but the other one's also a blowout. You're squeaking out wins over Nebraska and Rutgers or something like that. I think that's the only scenario where you beat MSU, you're 8-4, and you're still fired, as if that context is really, really bad. Now, I I don't see a scenario where you're 8-4, you beat MSU, and context is that bad. I don't see that this year, but I could see that being like a reason for him to go with an 8-4 record. I just don't think that's that scenario. The biggest thing here that I'm like, that's constantly being brought up in my head though, is like, how much of an improvement from last year do people really care about? And I think it's relatively low, right? I think most people want to like throw out last year, and be like, hey, we want to like automatically be a 9-win, 10-win team or else you're gone. I feel like that's where most people are at. I think there's a big disconnect between that and where the administration is at. I think the administration desperately wants Harbaugh to turn it around. I think they do way more than the fans are willing to give Harbaugh. 100%. 100%. So I don't know. Everyone cares about the bowl game. As Tone said, are going into the offseason. It is. It is. And again, unless the context is really bad here, say you at 8-4, you're getting into a decent bowl game. Unless you're getting absolutely obliterated in that bowl game, I think you're staying, man. I think you're staying. People have forgotten how great it is to win a bowl game after whatever, like 5 losses in a row. The thing that sucks, and I brought this up, I forget what video I brought this up. Think about Michigan's bowl games the past 5 or so years. They've been really, really good bowl games, right? Like Michigan's consistently been put in generally pretty solid, like, you know, top 20, top 15 ranked bowl games against some really good teams. The thing that sucks for Michigan, especially in 2016 and 2018, you're a national championship competitor in those 2 years going into Ohio State. Everything is on the line. Every single thing. Big Ten East title, Big Ten championship appearance, playoff appearance. Everything is on the line going into that final game. And then, boom, you lose to OSU. You're sitting at home watching them win a Big Ten championship, and then you get this consolation BS bowl game, and you're just done. Think of how deflating that is versus any other team in the Big Ten. Any other team. Think of like what Penn State, right? Oh, they'll have a close loss to Ohio State in week 7, and then they just rattle off 5 straight wins into bowl season, and you're all pumped up. That never happens for Michigan because they're always finishing the season with Ohio State. Couple years, they've had everything on the line still. And then guess what? Boom, you lose to Ohio State. All of your high hopes for the season are gone, obliterated, no longer there. And it's gone. Right? So how deflating is that for that to happen? Give me a second, guys. I need to push the other live stream by like 15 minutes, okay? If you're an exclusive live stream guy, I'm going to start that at 9:30, okay? I forgot that's coming up. I'm going a little long here. So give me 1 minute. Let me reschedule that. But yes, I am doing a members only live stream. That's coming up at it'll be 9:30 tonight for about half hour. Okay? Let me edit that. I'm going to do 9:25 for that because that sounds cool. Okay. So that's where I'm at in terms of like bowl game and why Michigan, it sucked for Michigan, right? Because Michigan State fans are like, oh, we've won bowl games. Like, you know, and it's like, yeah, the like tax slayer who gives a shit bowl, right? Like, it's a very different bowl game than what Michigan's been doing. Okay, I went on a little rant there. Administration is 100% praying for Harbaugh to beat Ohio State this year or get 9-10 wins. Yeah, 100%, without a doubt. They're praying that Ohio State doesn't find a suitable quarterback, which, like, good luck. Well, that is a good point. Nuts says that the administration could care less how well the football team does. If they're mediocre and still bring in the money, they're just fine with that. They want it to trend in the other direction, though, right? Because this year has been a struggle. Okay, they've like kind of struggled to sell tickets based on their marketing. It at least seems that way, right? They're kind of scrambling. So a turnaround in a record, I mean, you're stupid. Like you're not stupid. I think it's silly to think that the administration wouldn't want the team to do well because there's a correlation between doing well and selling tickets easily. Okay, there is. Okay, let's move on. We only got like 10 minutes here before I got my members only live stream, but let's get into scenario 6 here. Okay. And this is 9-3 or better. Okay. For this, my verdict is that he stays. Okay. Now, what are the scenarios in which he loses to both rivals and is still 9-3? Right? Still 9-3. I don't even think it's worth doing like 2 versions of this, right? Where he beat MSU or lose to MSU. I just don't see it. I don't see it. And even if he does, okay, let's say I'm going to do scenario 1 where your losses are to say Washington, MSU, and OSU. Okay, that's like a worst case scenario, right? You have some pretty good wins there. You have wins over Wisconsin, Penn State, Indiana, and you lose none of the other teams that like you're expected to win against, right? So this is like you win, you win one game you're probably an underdog in, and you win both toss-up games. 9-3, you're looking at probably like a top 15 or so, top 20 at least ranking, probably top 15. I think you stay. Any scenario where you beat MSU, and I think it's a guarantee you stay. Okay? So 9-3 or better, I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that he would stay in this scenario. Okay? Again, context always matters, but context would have to be horrendous. Okay? An example of that would be like 4 touchdown losses to MSU and OSU, right? Something like that. And that's like the only scenario where I see a 9-3 season would result in him going. And even then it's like, how likely is that, right? So it's tough. And I do think, I know there's a lot of discussion going on in the chat. I've kind of been ignoring going on my own tangent here, but this is a great point from Jake Raman. If those bowls had been wins, those seasons would either be the 6th or 7th 11-win season in Michigan football history. Think about that. Michigan was a bowl game away from their 6th or 7th 11-win season in Michigan football history. Okay, I think people look at how good Ohio State has been and think that that's where Michigan should be, right? They look at Ohio State and Michigan, the rivalry, right, between the two, and they see the elevated spot that Ohio State is at now. And I feel like too many people attach kind of like the Bo Schembechler versus Woody Hayes, like where Michigan and Ohio State are, duking it out year after year. Ohio State is in a stretch of unprecedented levels. Okay, this is the best that program has ever been, ever. And I'm not saying it's unreasonable for Michigan fans to expect more out of Michigan, because I think they can and should be doing better than they have. But it's not like Michigan hasn't gotten close, right? I don't know. I'm always conflicted by this, because you look at any other team and their record against Ohio State, and it's not much better over the past 20 years, right? I get it. Michigan should have at least a few more wins in there, and they don't. And it's understandable to be upset about that. But Ohio State's in an unprecedented state of success these past 2 decades. That's the issue here. So I don't know, man. I'm not saying you're like fighting a losing battle here, but show me a coach that's going to consistently beat Ohio State, and show me a coach that can consistently beat Ohio State, and I will ask for a time machine as well to go back to where Michigan didn't hire Rich Rod or Brady Hoke. Right? There's the thing as momentum in building a program up. And Nick Saban and Ohio State are examples of that. That's a good point, P. Church. That's a good point. The expectation be even or ahead of Ohio State is unrealistic right now. Expectation to be ahead of the rest of the pack in the Big Ten is realistic, and they haven't been. Yeah, that's fair. The issue is Michigan just hasn't been able to put it all together in a single season, right? I mean, we've seen Michigan drubbing Wisconsin or drubbing Penn State, every other year, but they're not able to put it together in a year where they can beat Ohio State. Ohio State's just the gatekeeper, right, to any sort of success that Michigan wants to have. So I would argue Michigan has been at Wisconsin's level, at Penn State's level in general. They just haven't been able to put it all together in a single year and get over that final hurdle. In order to get closer to Ohio State, right, to break free from the Wisconsin, Penn State level and try to get their own tier, is they have to beat Ohio State once in that same year where they also take it to Wisconsin and Penn State, right? You kind of look at 2016 was that chance, and they just, they're right there. Brian Schultz, what if Michigan loses all away games and wins all home games except OSU? No. They're gone. They're gone. 6-6, you're gone. We've been through that, buddy. I mean, yeah, Michigan is technically the winningest of all time, but teams are approaching fast. Okay, we got a few minutes here. I think I went through these are my scenarios. All right, I think these are the scenarios. If I'm picking the most likely scenario, I'm thinking either 7-5 where you beat MSU or 8-4 losing to both rivals. For some reason, I think these are the two most likely scenarios. That's where I'm at. It's getting hot in here. It's getting hot. I've been preaching. Been talking. It's just hot air in here. Okay, what's going on rest of tonight? In 5-ish minutes, I'll be going live to members only live stream. Members of the exclusive live stream tier. I'm going to be going live at 9:25 coming up here in 5 minutes. So if you're not a member, but you want to join that, you can do that. I'll be talking some NBA. I'll be talking some Baltimore Ravens and defensive highlights of them, just walking through that a little bit. Again, how you do that is you press the join button on the channel, exclusive live stream, and you can get access to that tonight or even later on. If you want to become a member later on, that live stream will be available to you in the future as soon as you do become that member. Okay. Got a couple minutes here. Throw a like on the video. And again, if you don't, have the means to be a member, anything like that, totally understand. Just a way for you guys to provide extra support if you are looking to do so. But throw a like, subscribe to the channel. All of those things help a ton. Saad Malik, I don't think it's unreasonable to ask for one win in your first 7 years, considering we've recruited pretty much the second best of the Big Ten. Hey, man, I'm with you. 2016 was the chance. 2018, I think, was the chance. Even 2017, you had a chance at beating Ohio State, right? And just not able to get it done. I'll say this. I don't think the job that Harbaugh has done here has been acceptable. I don't think there's more than a handful of coaches that could have done a better job. I'm going to say that. Yotoski, what do you think of Hawkins getting number 2? Hey, man, if it's going to make him play better, I'm all for whatever numbers there are. Right? That's it. One last thing. If recruiting gets better, Walter Nolan, not going to happen. Demai Jackson, doubtful. That could buy him more leeway. I think Michigan's done a good enough job at the 2 biggest holes on the roster, which were defensive tackle and cornerback. I think the defensive talent is in the room now, especially at those 2 holes, with an intriguing staff to make me more confident long-term about the defense now. But how quick they're going to get up to speed, especially this year, that's where I'm a little worried. And I'm not sold on the offense just because play calling has left a lot to be desired. Offense needs to carry the team this year, and if the Gaddis hire doesn't start to pay dividends now, you're looking at a tough season. That's where I'm at. Okay, all right. I'm gonna end this stream, hopping over to the members only live stream. Again, thank you guys for popping in here. Appreciate you coming. We're close to like 60 concurrent viewers. That's pretty great. Ryan, will this be uploaded later? Yes, this is on the channel. As soon as I end here, you'll have access to the full video. It's converted into a video from a live stream. Okay, I'll see a select few of you who have become members in the members only live stream in a few minutes. Otherwise, guys, hope you have a great rest of your Wednesday night, and I'll maybe see you next week. I got to get going on this hype video, man. It's really tough this year. I've been super busy, so I got to crack down on that. But appreciate you guys coming out. I'll see you next week at some point. I'll be around. All right, last question I'll answer. Steve Sherrick, what if in some of the scenarios key players sit out of the bowl game? That's a whole different... I can't answer that in 2 minutes. I'll answer that next time, Steve. I'm going to put this down. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to say Steven to answer later, and it's going to be that, okay? So your question is heard, but I got to take off. All right, guys. Have a good rest of your Wednesday. Take care.